Look at her cheap clothes. The fiancé mocked the maid's daughter. What the billionaire did next shocked everyone. I still remember the moment the whole room went silent. A 3-year-old girl stood in the middle of a grand living room, holding her mother's hand, wearing a faded pink dress with a small tear at the sleeve. The fiancé laughed out loud and said, "Look at her cheap clothes." Nobody expected the man standing by the window to turn around. Nobody expected him to walk straight toward the little girl. But nobody, especially not the fiancé, was ready for what he said next. Grace Miller had worked as a housekeeper for the Whitfield family for almost 4 years. She was quiet, hardworking, and always on time. Her daughter Lily was 3 years old, with curly brown hair and a gap-toothed smile that could light up any room. Grace brought Lily to work on days when the sitter was sick, and Lily would sit in the corner of the kitchen, quietly playing with a small wooden truck. The house belonged to Nathan Whitfield, a 34-year-old businessman who had built his company from nothing. Nathan was kind to Grace. He always asked about Lily. He remembered her birthday. Grace never expected anything more than a paycheck, but something about the way Nathan looked at Lily felt different, warmer, like he saw something the rest of the world missed. That afternoon, Nathan's fiancée, Vanessa, arrived early for a dinner party. She was beautiful, polished, and used to getting her way. She noticed Lily sitting on the staircase in her worn pink dress. Vanessa's smile turned cold. "Whose child is this?" Vanessa asked, loud enough for the guests to hear. Grace hurried over, apologizing, pulling Lily gently by the hand. But Vanessa wasn't finished. She looked Lily up and down and laughed. "Look at her cheap clothes. Doesn't the help know how to dress her own kid?" A few guests chuckled nervously. Grace's face turned red with embarrassment, but she said nothing. She had learned long ago that arguing with people like Vanessa only made things worse. Lily, though, didn't cry. She looked up at Vanessa with wide, curious eyes and said something so soft that only Nathan, standing nearby, seemed to hear it. "That's the pretty lady Daddy talks about." The room froze. Vanessa's smile disappeared. Nathan's jaw tightened. Grace looked down at her daughter, confused, unsure what she meant. Nobody understood the words yet. But somehow, everyone in that room felt like something important had just been said. Nathan tried to laugh it off, but his laugh sounded forced. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "What did she just say?" she asked, her voice sharp now. Grace apologized again, saying children say strange things, that Lily probably meant nothing by it. But Vanessa wasn't convinced. She stared at Nathan, waiting for an explanation. The guests whispered among themselves. Some assumed it was an innocent mistake. Others weren't so sure. Nathan avoided Vanessa's eyes. He crouched down instead, right in front of Lily, and asked gently, "Sweetheart, what do you mean by that?" Lily reached into the small pocket of her dress and pulled out a folded piece of paper, soft and worn from being carried around. She handed it to Nathan without a word. Nathan unfolded it slowly. His hands began to shake. Grace stepped closer, trying to see what it was, but Nathan turned pale before anyone else could look. "Where did you get this?" he whispered. The paper was a photograph, torn at one edge. It showed Nathan years younger, standing beside a woman who looked strikingly like Grace, in front of a small house that Nathan hadn't seen in years. Grace gasped when she saw it. She hadn't shown that photo to anyone. It had belonged to her older sister, who passed away when Lily was just a baby. Nathan's voice cracked. "This was my father's house. Before everything changed." He looked at Grace, truly looking at her for the first time in years, not as an employee, but as someone connected to a past he thought he had buried. "Grace, is Lily my brother's daughter?" Grace's eyes filled with tears. "Your brother helped my sister when nobody else would. He passed away before Lily was born. My sister asked me to raise her as my own, and to never make her feel like she was missing anything. She hesitated. "I never wanted to complicate your life." Vanessa stood frozen, her cruel words from moments ago now hanging heavy in the silent room. The guests exchanged stunned glances. Nathan turned to Vanessa, his voice steady but firm. "This little girl is family. She has more courage in her than anyone here tonight." But there was one more thing Nathan hadn't said yet, something that would change everything for Grace and Lily. Nathan knelt down again, this time taking Lily's small hand in his. "You're not just family," he said softly. "You're my niece. And from today, you and your mom will never have to wear anything you don't love, and you'll never be laughed at again." He looked up at Grace. "I should have asked about my brother's family years ago. I'm sorry it took this long." Vanessa opened her mouth to speak, but Nathan raised a hand gently. "Kindness isn't something you can fake, Vanessa. Not to a child." The engagement ended quietly that night, without shouting, without more cruelty, just the truth finding its place. Grace cried tears of relief for the first time in years, holding her daughter close. Lily, too young to understand the whole story, only knew one thing for certain. She was loved. Months later, Nathan set up a small trust for Lily's education and moved Grace and her daughter into a home of their own, not as charity, but as family taking care of family. Every Sunday Nathan visited, and Lily would run to him, calling him Uncle Nate, her cheap little dress long replaced, though nobody in that house ever judged clothes again. And sometimes the smallest voice, wrapped in the simplest words, changes the biggest heart. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who still believes kindness can change the world. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment below.